Yep. She's recording. I'm just taking pictures for Mom.
Deb, are you still teaching or
Where are you from, Lincoln?
That's where I live now. I grew up here in Geneva.
Eugene over.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
You're taping now? Or?
Yep.
Oh, you're already taping?
Oh, that's okay. I just started early, so in case she starts talking. You're Cheryl and Chris was my age, I think.
Really?
Thank you. Michaela Hartman. But I went by Mickey then. So.
Oh, yeah, I remember there was a,
there
was a Hartman.
Yes.
We met back when we were kids in school. I know.
Yes. And Cheryl, I think I helped her with reading when she was in.
What was that Hartman? We did something.
Riley, my brother, is Hartman as well.
It might have been on one of those field trips, but when you were littler.
Okay. Yeah.
I remember the Hartman. Nice to see you again after many years.
I know.
I do remember that. There was a Hartman in the class. Yeah.
Yeah. Feels like a long time ago.
Well, hello everyone. I'm Mary Alice Burge Puckett. I was born in 1873. You know, that's 149 years ago. I married Jonathan W. Puckett, a dentist here in Geneva, in 1899. We have someone else coming yet, so I'll wait just a second here. And so both Dr. Puckett and I grew up in this general area. I was a keeper of my household here in Geneva, mother to 3 girls. Our first daughter, Greta, was born here in 1901. And our second daughter, Fern, was born in 1903, and a couple years later, Gladys, our last child, was born. We had a busy household, you know, cooking and cleaning and washing, and our oldest, Greta, she liked to help take care of her sister. And then when the baby was born, why, both girls enjoyed her. Like all children, ours were fun-loving, inquisitive, and mischievous, at times. Like when Fern stuck her hand in the wringer on the washing machine, and before I knew it, she had lacerations on her fingers and lost a fingernail. Well, little did we know that might not be the last sad thing to happen to Fern. Our sweet Fern died of an accidental poisoning. She wasn't quite 3 years old when that happened. And Greta wasn't quite 6, and the little baby Gladys was not quite 2. So they were young. And needless to say, it was a great sadness for us. And the little girls couldn't understand, you know, what had happened. And I imagine you're thinking, well, yes, what did happen? Well, let me tell you. Our precious child developed a terrible cold, and we gave her the standard cold tablets of the day, and these tablets contain calomel and morphine. Now, calomel contains mercury, and of course at that time mercury was used to treat a lot of illnesses, but now we know maybe that's not such a good thing to be using mercury, and then with morphine on top of it. Well, Fern was sleeping that morning, and so about 10 o'clock I left the room to take care of the baby. Wasn't gone very long, but when I came back I saw that she'd gotten into the bottle of pills and probably taken 40 or so pills. Well, the doctor was called, he came right away, but by 1 o'clock that afternoon our little Fern had passed away. Our precious child. It was just, we were heartbroken and shocked over such a sad affair. Fern's service was held in our home with the Congregational Reverend Thomas Griffiths presiding, and we were so grateful to have the Rebeccas and the Oddfellows handling the funeral arrangements, and grateful for the sympathy of Geneva and the surrounding community in their sympathy. So today I sit here by little Fern's grave, visiting and remembering when we lived here. To my right are my parents' grave. My father, Martin Perry Burge, died in 1912. And my mother, Matilda Jane Oakes, died in 1924. I least gain comfort that little Fern has her grandparents near her as they rest. Did you ever hear about Doc Puckett or read about Doc Puckett? It seems like every time I turned around, Doc Puckett was being written up in some newspaper for something. Do you remember in 1899 when Company G came home from the war in the Philippines? Well, Doc's friend, Will Carson, brought a cage full of Japanese canaries and a manila monkey home. And actually the article that came from, there were some other strange things that came home from there too, but that's another story. Doc acquired the monkey, and he named him Jim, and he came to live with us. Doc trained him and taught him tricks so that he could kind of keep his patients in the dental office amused while he worked on them. And as the Milligan Journal said, so that the patients could keep their mouths open without the use of a crowbar. I remember when he took the monkey to the Grafton office for the patients there, and they did enjoy the monkey. And the Grafton Sun wrote that the boys and girls liked to see the monkey. At one time, we had a house fire in our home, and the newspapers got a hold of this story because the monkey was the only one home at the time. And yes, the monkey did get in to the matches and the oil lamp and the wood box, and the fire spread. But luckily, the neighbors got it put out before the water wagon even got there. Now, Orly Beals sprained his ankle on the way to the house fire, and the horse car, it tipped over and sprung an axle. We had $30 worth of repair on the house, and Jim the monkey, he was just fine. Doc didn't seem to relax too much after that. He put the matches and the oil lamp in the safe in our bedroom, and he put a burglar alarm on it, and then he tied a string to his toe so he'd be alerted if there were any changes. But nothing did happen. And Jim, our monkey, died in the end of 1900. And that was, of course, before we had our children. And so Jim sent that monkey to a taxidermist, and he had him mounted. And then he gave him back to Will Carson, his friend. And Will Carson displayed him in his window in his business here in Geneva. So always something to write up about Doc in the papers. Doc had a lot of firsts in his life, it seems like. In 1894 or 1824, before we were married, Doc bought and brought the first pneumatic bicycle, pneumatic tired bicycle is what I want to say, to Geneva, and rode it around, and he was quite a dashing figure on that bicycle. In 1901, Doc went to Omaha on the train, and he bought a $1,000 auto equipped with the newest improvements. It weighed about 1,100 pounds, and it had 28-inch rubber tires, and it was propelled by steam that was generated by gasoline. Now, it was touted as being 6 inches higher than a horse cart, or a horse buggy, I should say, and it would go through mud and snow. And Doc really gave it a good tryout because he took it to the various surrounding towns to his dental offices, because he took his dental offices to the people so they didn't have to travel. When he was bringing that home, he left Omaha on a Sunday, stayed the night in Crete with the Dr. Coswell, and then he came home on Monday. Going to Ohio was like 15 miles, but it took him an hour and 10 minutes because he had to stop 8 or 10 times for the horse teams to passing. This was a 2-passenger vehicle, and Doc enjoyed giving a lot of rides, and he gave a lot of them, but he enjoyed that. 7 years later, in 1907, Doc Puckett went to Lincoln, and he bought an elegant Ford automobile, 18 horsepower, 4-cylinder. Was one of the neatest autos in the county. And on the trip home from Omaha, or from Lincoln with that, before he got to Crete, he encountered a lot of washouts. So that necessitated much travel to get around these washouts. But when he got to Crete and then on the run home to Geneva, it only took him 2.5 hours to get here. He really liked that auto, and so he took on the Ford dealership, and he ordered a carload of cars, and he opened the first showroom in the county here in Geneva. Our family left Geneva sometime between 1908 and 1916 and went to Denver, Colorado. But in 1917, we were saddened when our youngest daughter, Gladys, died at 12 years of age, and so she was buried in Denver. What a heartache for parents to go through losing another child. Our oldest, Greta, lived to be about 96 years old, and she's buried in Denver. Doc Puckett died at age 90 in 1958, which was 5 years before I died in 1963, near the age of 90. We are buried with Gladys and Greta in Denver. So since most of my family is in Denver, that's where I must return to. So I thank you, people, for taking care of my parents' grave and my sweet little girl's grave. And I thank you for visiting with me today.
Hopefully you have a faster car to get back to Denver.
Yes. Oh, I think I do. I have a few angel wings in on.
Oh,
Good job.
Very interesting.
great job.
Without Diane's research, a lot of us would be really stumped.
Whatever
She's-
happened, Diane, with the monkey? You couldn't find out, or
What happened to the monkey?
after it was displayed like that?
Oh, I don't know what happened to him. They said that.
Right there.
Yeah, there he is. They said that when he was, after he had been, whatever, stuffed or
Mounted.
taxidermy, mounted, that he just didn't look like the same monkey.
And he's
So.
and Puckett said it wasn't mounted very nicely or very well. So I would presume maybe he didn't survive too long. So
We don't know when he died, though.
yeah, but he did die. So I thought he was a very interesting family.
And that Carson that you mentioned that brought him
Will
back,
Carson,
I think he is actually claimed that he was related to Kit Carson.
Oh yes.
So I don't know if that's true or if he
Right.
just thought it made an interesting story because he sounded like quite a character
Yes.
too.
And I gathered that his father had owned a business and kind of were in groceries
Yes.
and sundries and
Yeah,
sundry things
yeah,
like
a
that.
What did he do
restaurant,
out in Colorado, did it say?
lots of things.
That we have not caught up with. Yeah, I wondered. But I would say he was probably still a dentist in Colorado, but I don't know.
But you
Yeah, I
couldn't,
don't know
you
either.
couldn't figure.
Well, maybe time-wise, we didn't look far enough. But
Did they do they have significance to the family, or were they just part of the toys?
the doll, no, that's just my doll and my family monkey that comes from way back.
I like that addition to this.
Yeah.
It's very
I
sweet.
thought it signified the child.
Well done.